Welcome to Casas and Conversations with Darien Cruz. Great podcast today with Noah Asbill from Homeside Mortgages. Noah was an awesome guest, so awesome in fact, it's going to be 2 episodes. So we got a lot of really good information. We covered a lot of topics. We still have way more to get to. We'll have him back. But in order to keep the runtime about 20 to 30 minutes on this, we're going to have to split this one up. So if episode 4 ends a little abruptly, don't worry. You can watch right on through to episode 5. We're uploading that one as well. And without further ado, enjoy Casas and Conversations with Darien Cruz, special guest, Noah Asbill. Let's say I just don't know where I stand. Like I don't know what my credit score is. I don't know. I've tried to pay my bills on time. I think I'm doing all right. Is it going to hurt me if I go in and just to kind of find out, where my current standing is in terms of getting a mortgage loan? Is that going to affect me negatively?
Yeah, so every inquiry on your credit report does negatively impact you, at least to an extent. Each inquiry is about 3 to 8 points on your credit score. Mm-hmm. In the grand scheme of things, that is very, very small. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you are shopping around for a mortgage, there's a guideline in place that says that if you are shopping for a mortgage, you can go to Wells Fargo, you can go to SunTrust, you can go to Homeside. And as long as every one of those companies pulls your credit report within 14 days, mm-hmm. that those inquiries are treated as only one inquiry. So Excellent. It won't negatively impact your score. 8 points, 8 points, 8 points. It'll Perfect. Just be counted as one. So don't be afraid to shop around. That's totally allowed. The credit bureaus have that rule in place, so you don't feel like you're stuck with one lender.
That's perfect. That's something I had mentioned to clients in the past, and actually just recently here, that it's not going to affect you like you're going out and applying for 15 credit cards at different stores at the same time. It's different. I didn't realize exactly how many points it was. So that's super good info. That's really good to know.
Yeah, it's very, very small. And the impact of that on your credit report is pretty short-lived mm-hmm. too. I would imagine after about 3 months, that impact is maybe a point or two. So It's very, very small and doesn't stay with you as long as, say, a late payment would.
Yeah, got you. So even if you were planning maybe on working on your credit for the next year and getting it exactly where you want to be, it may not be a bad idea to check back in 6 months and kind of see where you're at, would you say?
Absolutely. And getting us to be able to say, okay, you've made some progress, you're here mm-hmm. now. This is the things you need to work on to get to that next point.
Awesome.
We're happy to do that. And all we say is just keep us informed. Keep us updated as to where you're at on things, and we'll be happy to continue to advise you.
Got you. Okay, so I'm a person, let's say, who I've started my own company. I'm 1099 now. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I'm killing it. I'm doing great. But I don't have 2 years doing this. Is there any way I'm going to be getting a mortgage?
So yes, there are certain guidelines that allow for that, mm-hmm. but they're pretty specific. So if you've been in the same industry for 5 years prior to doing this, so let's say you were a plumber and you mm-hmm. worked for a local plumbing company as just a tech, and you did that for 5 years, and then you decided, I'm going to go out on my own, and you've been doing it for over a year at that point. Mm-hmm. Yes, we could get you qualified using years awesome. Worth of tax return. But mm-hmm. keep in mind that it's based on your tax return income. So if you started in, let's say, December, and it's now it's now June, and you've killed it from December through mm-hmm. June, well, you haven't filed taxes on the January through June income.
Yep.
Only on that December income. So mm-hmm. you're not likely to qualify based on 1 month.
Sure.
So it does depend on exactly when that year falls for you mm-hmm. And when you filed your taxes. But yes, it is possible. Is it likely? It's a little tough because we understand that when you start up a new business, there's going to be a lot of startup costs. There's a lot of expenses up front. And typically, for most people, that first year is not the best year.
Yes.
So it can be a little difficult, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind, I think for those out there who are 1099s, who are, running their own business, I absolutely relate to that. So when you're doing that, when it comes to filing your taxes, eventually you're going to pay. You're going to pay now, or you're going to pay later on that income. And if you decide you want to write, every Snickers bar you bought over the year off, you knock yourself out, but you're going to show less income. And then when you go to apply for a mortgage, something else, well, it says here you only made this amount. Well, that's impossible. I made 3 or 4 times that amount. Well, you wrote off so many expenses to the point where now you're not really showing that much income. And that can really be, I imagine, a huge effect as well.
It does. So when we analyze tax returns for self-employed borrowers, we're looking at the bottom line number, not the gross sales for the business, but after all those little deductions that they made, those meals that they wrote off while traveling, the car that they bought, the laptop that they bought, the advertising they did, all of that gets deducted, and we start off with that bottom number. Now, there are certain things that we can add back in. Business miles, we can add at least part of that back in.
Okay, so I didn't realize that.
$50,000 or 50,000 miles, we can add a portion of that deduction back into your income. Depreciation we can add back in. So if you were writing off depreciation on vehicles that you had or equipment that you had, we can count that as an additional income for you.
Sure.
But advertising, that fancy office chair that you bought, anything like that.
But it's so ergonomic.
Yeah, it makes you feel great. It makes those long days at the office not so bad.
Yeah.
But,
it's self-heating. It's heated.
It's crazy.
I know. I mean, it's tough to say no. If it had that'd be it. I don't care what the cost is if it had an espresso maker in it. No, but really that's a good thing to really keep in mind. And look, legitimate expenses are legitimate expenses. You do need to write off what your expenses are, because that shows truly what your income is. But if your sole purpose is just to not have to pay any taxes, well, then you could be hurting what you'd be counting towards your income too. At some point, I was always say you're going to pay now, you're going to pay later, but at some point you're going to pay one way or the other. And
it's a 2-year average. Whenever we ask for 2 years of tax returns, we are averaging those 2 years. So if you are in year 2 and year 1 was not good, we're going to take that into consideration and show a lower than normal average income for you. So it may be worth for you to wait for year 3 to where we're counting year 2 and 3 and getting rid of year 1 in terms of what your income would be.
Gotcha. Let's say, we have a lot of universities close by here. We have UNC Chapel Hill, NC State, Duke University. I mean, there's so many schools here. We have a lot of folks coming out of school, getting into the workforce. Many of them were working while they were in school as well. But let's say you've graduated, got a nice jump in pay. How hard is it for a recent college grad to get a mortgage?
If you've got good credit and you've been at your job for over 30 days and you have those 30 days of pay stubs, we're good. All we would do is, normally we look for a 2-year work history, is we would count your school for that 2 years. So we would get your transcripts from UNC, which is obviously everybody knows the best university in the area. we would get those transcripts.
Staying neutral, both politically and educationally.
Yeah, I think I just lost a few sentences there. So we'd get those transcripts and count that towards your work history. So very easy. And if you're retired and you're getting Social Security or retirement or pension income, we love retirees because they are the easiest clients to work with. And it's just so easy to calculate their income. It's just very straightforward. So either end of the spectrum, you're good.
Awesome. Very good to know. And there's sort of sometimes people have certain viewpoints where they're thinking of, young couples or college kids getting out of school and thinking, they're not focused on that. So many are. So many have been working really hard to get to the point that they're at. And when they graduate, they've already got a plan in place. And part of that plan may be home ownership, real estate investment. So just don't underestimate that demographic. There's a lot of really smart, young people that are really geared up for success and making wise investments. So, that's something I always keep in mind. On the other hand, other side of the spectrum, there are a lot of folks that move here in retirement. Quite a few, especially we've had a huge influx of folks moving in from out west, up north, moving to this area. It's an area where you have really everything you need. You can choose to be 10 or 15 minutes outside of the city, super calm, but still have access to that, which is great. So we're seeing a lot of those folks coming in. Let's say I'm on a fixed income, right? And I still want to look at buying a home. Realistically, is that an issue? Is that going to be a problem? Being that I have, that fixed income, that's all that I'm working with at this point.
Not at all. As I said, we love working with retirees. They tend to always have all their documents ready to go.
Yeah, for sure.
They have literally anything I need. They're like, well, let me just grab it out of the filing cabinet right here, and I'll send it to you right now.
Yeah.
So we love working with retirees. Fixed income is not an issue, and actually, in some situations, it allows us a lot more flexibility. The mortgage guidelines have a calculation that says that if somebody is receiving Social Security income, and let's say that they are not paying taxes on all of that Social Security income, then we can gross up the portion that is not being taxed to indicate as if it were being taxed, what would that value be, which adds a little bit of extra income to their file. We have ways that we can work the guidelines to allow us to use some of that retirement income that they may be getting, or if they are, let's say they have an IRA that they just have sitting there, they're not even drawing on it yet. We can take advantage of some of the guidelines to be able to use some income that they haven't even received yet, or in the past, to make them qualify. So
great.
Retirees allow us a lot of flexibility, which is really nice, and it allows us to say, okay, we just need an extra $500 per month to be able to make this house work for you. Let's set up a distribution from your IRA, and we're good to go.
Cool. And let's say I just retired last month. So, do I need to view this like it's a new job? Do I need to have been retired for a while receiving this retirement income? Is that how that works?
Not at all. If you've received one Social Security deposit or one pension deposit, we're good to go. We know that income is going to be fixed going forward. So we don't worry about having a long history of that. As long as you can show that you're going to get that income and you've received it once, we're good to go.
Got you. For those who, we touched on this a little bit earlier, the credit scores, using these agencies to check your credit. Let's just pretend for a minute that's accurate. That number is the number. Probably in the ballpark, but let's say that's the real number. What is a quote unquote good credit score? Like when I'm looking at it, what do I need it to be realistically, bare minimum to get a mortgage? But what would I love it to be to get a mortgage under the terms that are most favorable to me?
Great question. So in a pre-COVID environment, we were able to do down to a 580 credit score.
Wow.
For an FHA loan. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, there was a lot of investors that backed off of a lot of riskier programs, and anything down to 580 was considered risky just because the risk of late payments or no payments for somebody who's missed some in the past. So if you had a 580 credit score, you previously were good to go. Now it's at a 620 for us.
Okay.
620. What you really want is to be above 740. That puts you in the very top tier for credit and qualifying. If you're even at a 720, that's a very good credit score, and you're going to get a really good interest rate and a really good loan terms. Depending on the program, if you are doing an FHA loan, 680 is considered a really good credit score for an FHA loan.
Yeah.
Conventional loans, you really want to be at 720 or above. We sometimes will do down to a 680 on a conventional loan, or maybe even lower if you're doing a really large down payment. But if you're doing the minimum down payment, 680 is really the bottom of where we would do a conventional loan at.
Cool. And if you're going for an FHA, a lot of people think FHA, it's the first time I'm buying a house, maybe, if they're housing the first time, that's when I'm going to use that loan. Can you explain, does it have to be the first time you're buying a house to use an FHA?
No. FHA is a common loan used by first-time home buyers because it has more lenient lending standards.
Yes.
So you can have a higher debt-to-income ratio. You can have a lower credit score, which tends to be the people who have not been financially secure for very long. So that tends to be more your first-time home buyers.
Sure.
But with that being said, we have a lot of first-time home buyers, and you spoke about millennials having their finances in order.
Yeah.
We have a lot of first-time home buyers who are buying very expensive houses and doing decent down payments. They do 10% down on a $400,000 house because they've planned, and they've been working towards that. So FHA is a really good loan. There's nothing wrong with it. I think that it does
Yeah.
sometimes get a bad rap because
Mm-hmm.
it tends to be more your less than well qualified clients.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, if you qualify for an FHA loan, it's a good loan, and I would say that you should be very comfortable accepting an offer if you're a seller. Accepting an
Sure.
offer that's an FHA loan as
Absolutely.
long as everything looks above board.
Yeah, absolutely. If let's say I'm a homeowner, I got my home. It was an FHA loan. I've been in there 5 or 6 years at this point. I've decided to now make that a rental property. That's now
Okay.
a rental property. I'm going to treat that now as an investment. I want to buy another home, and I plan on living in that home.
Mhm.
Can I get an FHA loan for that other home?
You cannot. FHA is pretty strict about only
Mhm.
one home with an FHA loan against it.
Gotcha.
There are certain criteria that are exceptions to that,
Hmm.
but generally speaking, you are allowed one FHA loan at a time.
Gotcha. Can I refinance and then go and get another FHA loan?
Absolutely. So if you refinanced your current home that's an FHA loan into a conventional loan,
Hmm.
then yeah, after that you are more than welcome to go buy a new FHA or a home with an FHA loan. That's totally fine.
Can Noah Asbill with Homeside do all that for me if I want to do that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome.
And we are doing a lot of refinances right now
Yes.
of FHA loans into conventional loans. The
Yes.
biggest benefit to doing that is that FHA's mortgage insurance, or what is essentially its mortgage insurance, is
Hmm.
for the life of the loan. And so by refinancing into a conventional loan, if you already have 20% equity,
Oh
then
yeah.
you're dropping that PMI, and that's really going to drop your payment a lot and really benefit.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I did it myself a while back. It was great.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference, and particularly if you're someone who wants to use that home as an investment property, you now have some room where you can make profit every month on that,
Mhm.
even if it's not completely paid off yet. That's still an option to look at. And if you decide you don't want to refinance, just list the home with me. We'll sell it, and then you can go buy your next one.
Absolutely. That's a great
Nothing
option.
wrong with that. Yeah, I think so. So, those are some of the main issues that I wanted to get into today. We still have so many more questions, so we're probably going to have to do a few more of these, I think, to really address all of them. But yeah, I really appreciate the answers that you gave us. Super informative. Do you have any particular programs or things you guys have going on at Homeside that you feel will be beneficial for people to know about? Anything you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, a lot of investors and a lot of mortgage lenders are not doing jumbo loans at all.
Mm-hmm.
We are doing jumbo loans. We've got a number of different investors that are still doing them. So
Awesome.
if that's something that you're having trouble finding, we have those. We also have some out of the box programs. So we have our 80/20 program, which is basically a first mortgage for 80% of the home's value and then a home equity line for 20% of the home's value. So essentially, you get 20% equity without having a down payment.
Mm-hmm.
It avoids the PMI. It's a really good option if you're trying to buy a home and you need to have a large down payment, but
Yeah.
maybe you're going to do some renovations on it and you want to keep that money in your pocket.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really good option. And we've done a number of those recently for individuals who are doing renovations or who maybe are planning on selling their current home, but
Yeah.
they don't want to do that right now. They want to do that after the fact. So when they do finally sell their home, they're going to use that equity to pay off the home equity line, and boom,
Yeah.
they have 20% equity.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah. And they won't even have much interest at that point, I imagine, if they're doing it that quickly.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
It's
awesome.
the home equity line is an interest only loan, so you're
Mm-hmm.
making really small payments on that every month
Mm-hmm.
until
Yeah.
you can sell that other home. So it's a really
Perfect.
good option for a lot of investors and a lot of people who are looking to move into a bigger house or maybe do some renovations.
Yeah. And there's so many great properties in our area that will be perfect for that. One thing we're seeing in Cary a lot, especially, tons of these, older, mid-century split levels that were built in this area. People are going in and then renovating a lot of those properties. I mean, they look amazing. And you are seeing a good ROI on a lot of those properties where they're going in, they're getting a really good deal. Maybe there's just some cosmetic things that need to be done. And they'll go in, get those things done, really, really modernize those homes on the inside. Just maybe change some color palettes, change some flooring, countertops. And I mean, they look incredible. And they are
Yeah.
flying off when they put them for sale. I mean, it's not hard at all to sell those properties. So I think, that's something in our area in particular that could be really useful. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on, giving us some info. Where should people find you, Noah, if they want to reach you, if they have questions about mortgage? Do you have some contact info that you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to reach me is my cell is 919-801-2721. You can also email me at nasbill, that's ASBILL @gohomeside.com. You can look me up on Zillow. You can look me up on Facebook, whatever. I'm open. Find me on Twitter.
Yeah.
Whatever
Awesome.
you want to do to get in contact with me, I'm happy to help you out.
Perfect. And I'll put some of those links to Noah's contact information and social media in the descriptions. For those who are listening to the audio podcasts, whatever platform you choose, whether it's going to be Spotify, Apple podcasts, wherever that may be, there's a description for each episode. I'll put his contact info in there. It'll be there. For those of you who prefer to watch the podcast on YouTube, just look down below in the description. You'll see it there. As always, no matter what platform you're watching or looking on, definitely like, follow, comment, subscribe. We appreciate the support. I want to thank Noah for coming in, and I want to thank you all for listening to this episode of Casas and Conversations with Darien Cruz. And today with Noah Asbill. Thanks a lot.